Episode 349.
System activate.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins. It's a tech podcast. But we are a ton cooler than your typical geek.
You guys rock.
And now, here's Will.
No one listens to the radio. I wasn't even listening. I was listening to podcasts. Podcasts are great. Radio's boring.
Yeah, podcasts are great. Radio's boring. But what do you even consider a podcast anymore, man? The whole thing is just a big mishmash of mixed media, and I'm part of it. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Oh, another edition of NetHeads. My name is Will, and joining me today in the Net Cave? No, we don't do that. But joining me today, sitting in for Trent, who is on assignment, is not Trent. It's Mr. Marvelite, Tony. Welcome back, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be not Trent tonight.
I'm glad. I'm glad for you to not be Trent as well, sir. I appreciate that. Really, thank you for joining me. We also were helping to take care of a little bit of business right at the head of this because you got a little something coming up, right?
Yeah, so with Nerd Initiative, we are starting our own streaming show. I don't even know if we would call it a podcast yet, if we were even go in that direction, but we're starting a show this coming Friday, September 2nd at 9 o'clock Eastern time, called Fandoms. And it's going to basically cover the last 2 weeks of just nerd news and analysis. You're going to get to see a lot of contributors from Nerd Initiative, just kind of give their rundown on the things that they're just the best at. So super excited and can't wait to see what happens with it.
Yeah, man. I'm really looking forward to it as well. I keep threatening to help contribute and then but still I also enjoy the
your
content.
brain has been invaluable.
Oh, well, it's good to know that somewhere it is. Man, let me tell you, I'm just going to kind of veer off in a little bit of a direction right now because you would not believe the frickin' day I've had. That's the simplest way to put it. It's like, I sat down and I'm like, I got a podcast today because today was a day that was just like a real day of life, if you will. First of all, first world problems entitled white guy, started off having to get up early to take my dogs to the groomer. Yes, just as bougie as it sounds. And in that, though, we had a fun adventure. My daughter was driving my car, my 19-year-old, Emily. And as we're going along, she gets into a situation where Rika, our male Samoyed, he really loves going for a car ride, right? You with me so far?
Yes.
Loves going for a car ride. And so when he's doing that, he's comfortable back there. So he walks around. So my daughter is like wanting to change lanes, but the dog is walking around. So she's like, you know what? I'll just stay in this situation behind this junk hauler. One of those actual like metal but open roof junk haulers. And then it moved over one lane, and I thought maybe she was going to pass it there. But just as it does, we watch in horror as we see what is very clearly a section of a sliding glass door raise as though by magic up from the garbage area of the hauling truck, and then horror as it is falling down on the freeway right in front of my car.
Oh, wow.
And it literally, it's like it's a visual effects in a movie. It shattered in front of us. Now, as we're watching that happen, first of all, my daughter's doing everything she can. There's very little shoulder, and then it's part of the freeway where there's just like a sound road there, right? So, or a sound wall, not a sound road. I don't know what a sound road is, but I want to ride it sometime. Anyway, the sound wall fence type structure is there. So there wasn't very far to go. And literally me and my biggest shining moment realizing, okay, well, glass is about to shatter in front of us. And there is framework also coming at us from these doors. This was my move. I'm like, something's gonna happen. So just,
You just gave up.
I wouldn't say gave up. I wouldn't say I surrendered, but I would say that I just recognized the fact that it's going down and there will just be some type of outcome. So if nothing else, I can't do anything for my daughter. She's behind the wheel. Let's assume crash positions. So that happened, and as that was, what we didn't realize is there was a second section of the sliding glass door. So probably the complete package
Oh, wow.
came up as well, but it didn't clear the truck. Something was still holding it back, but that's okay. Don't worry. It still hit the very corner of that truck and then proceeded to shatter and rain glass down on my car. Rain, my friend. It was like hail, but made of silicone.
And your dogs are riding in the car with you.
They don't even know what the hell's going. Rika's still just panting away. He's happy, walking back and forth. Winston's laying down. Yuki may have let out a little tiny, just like, because she wasn't sure what was going on. But they were blissfully unaware how close they came to death. Then the funnest part was after we successfully get through that, and I'm telling my daughter, I'm like, I'm really sorry, but just try and drive as safe as possible because, man, we just not only rode over one of those frames. Thankfully, we didn't get hurt. The car didn't really get damaged. It's a good way of putting it. And I'm just like, let's just kind of be aware of what the situation is with this thing. And then after we dropped off the dogs and immediately like, okay, we got to get home. I turned to her and I said, do you remember, does my car have a flat tire indicator? She said, I don't know. And then I looked back and I said, oh, update, it does. So,
So did the truck driver ever like stop, or did they just kind of keep on their merry way?
to the best of my knowledge, they kept moving. And my daughter at that point was panicked and just wanted to get away. I tried to get the name of the company, but as we drove by, it turns out it was a rental company. So this was somebody that was, they were renting a truck to get somewhere, and God only knows how well they are at, actually, I can tell you how good they are at securing a load. They're not. But, so that was fun.
I will tell you, I don't know what it is about people who borrow vehicles, especially like work vehicles, like trucks, where they think they know what they're doing. A number of years ago, I had one of those Ram 1500s, and I was helping a church. They were hiring a guy to pave, and they bought all the supplies. And I kid you not, like we had to go pick up more of the sealant and everything. And so I went with the pastor, and we're at the Lowe's, and they load this huge crate of sealant. Like it's like too high, and it's the whole crate, and it fills the whole back of my truck. And I said, do you think we should tie it down? They go, oh no, it's heavy enough. It's not going to go anywhere. And I knew that was wrong. And I was driving as slow as I possibly could. And I was going over a speed hump, and this kid, as my back tires were going up on the speed hump, this kid ran out in the road. And so I hit the brakes, not very hard. And all of a sudden, glass is just flying all over the place. The tubs had rolled forward and shattered the back window and was rolling off the sides of the truck. And we're trying to get everything. And I remember the pastor just sitting there with his hands in his face. And this guy, like, he's done work, like construction work for years. And he's like, just send me the bill. And I'm like, it's just a truck. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I was very thankful everyone came away from this okay, except for my car. But, at the same time, this was one of those things. My car has not had a lot of use in the last 2 to 3 years. And so we took a long, hard look at it, and I'm like, I don't even remember the last time I bought tires for this thing. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, like I got there and like, yeah, your tread on your front tires is low, at which point I instantly know, you got to really bite the bullet and just buy 4 tires so that way the tread matches and you don't get any other weird pulling that you can get from other ways like alignment and all that jazz. And then while they were there, do the alignment as well. And it was probably a blessing in that sense because now the worn down tires are no longer in play. Terrifying thing though is if you want to know how well we ran over some glass, and I'm going to say this, Tony, but then I want you to think about what I mean. They found glass in the tires.
Oh, okay.
So not just in the skin.
So it like went right through the tire.
It somehow some of them punched through belt and made a clear entrance and were just crumbling down into powder inside of there. In the world's most sadistic rock turner ever for rock cleaning.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about, a rock tumbler. Yes.
This was the doozy. So it's been an interesting day to say the least because now it's been a lot of having things shift. My daughter had plans that had to change because now my car had to go get taken care of and her car had to become the one to get the dogs, and my wife's car needs gas, and at some point I've got to pick up my car, and so it's just been a day. But it's not every day where you're just like, oh, an entire piece of glass is going to shatter in front of me on the freeway. It's just not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you don't prepare for that.
Normal.
So I'm like, I got to talk to somebody about this. And, my therapist has the cease and desist order, so I'll bug Tony instead.
Okay, well, that's fine. I'll take it.
I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. So, Tony, if you don't mind to indulge me, one of the things that we have been kicking off the show with lately, which is probably one of the most boring segments that my wife would listen to, if she actually listened to, because she has to live through the hell of this. What is it I'm obsessing about printing? I was in the garage a few weeks ago. Quiet, emo. You're causing trouble. I was in the garage a couple weeks ago and I discovered, I've got some translucent green resin that I could use. I should really use that up because it's expired. And so, it's like, that's a good reason to finally find. And I'm just thinking, what would be the one thing that would be awesome to do in green translucent resin and really easy if you could find a good free design? That'd be Green Lantern's ring. And so that's what I did.
Was a fantastic movie.
Yeah. Regardless of how the quality of the film, and this one isn't quite like that. The film one is more of like it's a rock banded surface that kind of comes up over and into the gem. But the funniest part was trying to figure out my ring size. So needless to say, I kind of have a full complement of like choose your own finger options that I have available. And instantly, when I start doing something like this, my youngest, Blair, instantly says, "Dad, can you make me one?" So now suddenly I'm printing 2 at the same time, but in different sizes, which just looks ridiculous. Her ring literally fits within the body of mine alone. But those came out really good. And then somebody asked if I could print a weeping angel, and yes, sure enough, they're out there. So I did those. But the thing that sent me down, and this is the warning I want to give anyone. If you're thinking about getting a 3D printer, okay, you got to be prepared. There is a little bit you have to learn. It is not just a set it and go type thing. That's not to say it's not easy, but there are things you have to learn. Like if you're using one of the ones that uses filament, then you've got to have considerations for settings there. If for resin, totally different set of considerations, because sometimes you wind up with issues. And so I'm bringing this one up just to kind of show how you will go down a rabbit hole. I printed one of these and it came out great, except that it had a failure near one part. So then every subsequent one I did started having surface issues, like bumps on it. So I ended up going back and changing some settings. Man, this is one of the ones with bumps on it. You will get obsessed about trying to get one good print of something, because what I'm about to hold up represents at least 3 others that you see out of you, and technically one is sitting on top of the
Because you can never have more than one.
Right.
You you have too many.
One is sitting that I did in resin on top of the flux capacitor, but it's a, oh, look, cute. It's a balloon animal, right? Isn't that adorable? But then you turn it around and it changes the perspective a little. This is a balloon dog that is crapping out a little balloon bag of, I don't know what it is, but.
I love that it has the little balloon stem.
Yeah.
For its poop.
Yeah. And
That's
the other one I did in an electric blue silky filament is actually the balloon dog, but it's in the downward dog position, which really makes this a fun and cute tail because it's like the electric blue balloon dog downward position. It's like, oh, is it being playful? Then you put this in front of it and you're like, oh, look at it play with its toy. Then you add this one and it becomes a true tale of horror. So anyway, that's those are all of the things I've kind of been printing and being obsessed about. And one of the cool things, if you happen to follow the Patreon, is that, and I have to phrase this very specifically, eventually all of my Patreon subscribers get what I like to call, why are you mailing this to me so I have to throw it out rewards, where I take my failed prints, like this particular one, just because of size or shift, maybe this ring will go to one of my Patreon subscribers. That bumpy dog that's crapping out a balloon, that'll go to one of my Patreon subscribers. So, you know, I do some
better way to show you love them.
Yeah, exactly. While also, you know, belaying that guilty feeling of, well, I just got to throw this thing out, you know. Now I'll mail it to you and make it your problem. I really can't wait. I'm going to send one of these. I know which Patreon subscriber I'm going to send it to. His name is Steve Ashton. He lives in the UK, and I just can't wait for him to open up this red bumpy dog that's dropping a deuce. I can't help it, Tony.
Yeah, and just say this made me think of you.
Mm-hmm. How about you, though? You have a 3D printer, so is there anything you've been printing lately?
Well, it's funny because you make the comment about how you have to have some knowledge with 3D printers, and I have an Ender 3 Pro, and one of the things, and I always tell people that it's a great starter printer. It's not expensive. You can find it sometimes in deals, especially around Black Friday. But you have to put it together, and so you do get an understanding of what it takes to calibrate and to adjust and everything else, because you will need to fix it. So I am in the process. I have 3 commissions for friends to make a Darkhold, and I decided I want to do something different. I want to mix it up. I would have grabbed it, but it's off screen. But I'm taking it. I'm actually going to print the Darkhold in translucent red filament, and then I'm going to tape it off and paint it. That way I can run an LED in the back that will light up and cause kind of the mystic effects through the book. And I got the front 2 pieces of the cover done. I got the top piece of the back done, and then the bottom one decided it wanted to go ahead and have a print failure and then jam. So I'm in the process of where I have to take the extruder and everything apart and kind of clear it out, because I'm pretty sure there's a big old wad of translucent filament, because it's great for what you want to do with it, but it's not the best for the printer. It's not the same style.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was something, it was when I was printing axolotls. When I was printing those articulated ones. One of them I thought, it'd be really cool to do it in translucent, because the translucent really kind of comes off as a translucent white. So that looks a lot like what an axolotl really looks like. And so when I went to go print it, though, I quickly discovered, which this blows me away, because in theory they should all be kind of the same stuff if they're all PLA. Right. It's just a matter of what's been added to it for color. But that one in particular, the translucent one, acts way more like plastic than any of my other filaments. It must require a very specific temperature that you have to hone it in on, because it comes off like hard, brittle plastic anytime I've messed with it. So my heart goes out to you on that one.
Yeah, so I usually have to do it around 205 degrees, because anything below that, it will harden and jam on the outside parts. And I had just updated to a new, the old software. I went back to the original software, because doing the newer stuff was causing me issues. And so I'm using like an old version, but I didn't calibrate the temperature at all. So I have to go back and do that. But after I clean out the extruder, because it works well when you do small projects. But I've never used I did the blue.
He's getting
this,
one to show us.
I did the blue with this a while back because I had actually made one of these for my wife's boss for Christmas last year, but I used the metallic PLA, which is a little bit better, but the longer you have it out in open air, the worse. But if you notice, like there's a piece here missing, and like there's all of this spidering around, and trying to clear out an area like in the tunnel, there's still like PLA that needs to be removed. It's tough as nails. It's almost hard to get the build plates off. So I don't recommend doing large projects with translucent. I'm just being stupid because I want to try something new. But yeah, it's sometimes it's better just to use regular PLA and then paint stuff and do minimal translucent.
If anyone is a fan of NetHeads, and that's a mighty big if, but if anyone is a fan of NetHeads that happens to also have some musical talent, I'm going to provide you a bed, okay? That's me doing the vocals. And all I'm looking for you is to do something that kind of sounds a little metal, and it's just really quick with maybe the sounds of some explosions end capped on either one. And all it is like, all I'm going to say is, like 3D printing nerds. Okay, there it was. That was it. So it's like it's for a little segment, and it's just got to have some quick guitar riff, some explosion sounds, and I don't know what else. So there you go. If you send that care of netheadsonair@gmail.com.
And listen, I'm just recommending this as well. Nobody can listen to me. My opinion is as much as it's worth. But it would almost be funny just to hear people do it without any like musical ability. Just do all the sounds that are like, da, 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 da.
But you see, that's what I could do. I could start combing through the royalty-free things, and I could layer the sounds myself. But no, I was hoping amongst hope, first, that there is a fan, and second, they have musical ability, and third, they could put that together for me. But you're right. I mean, send whatever you want. We'll play anything. We're desperate. So thank you very much for indulging us during the 3D print talk. Well, actually, what's funny is they sound the same, but I said it one way in my head, and what came out sounds identical. However, I was thinking one thing. And anyway, thanks for listening to us talk about that. But now I want to shift over actually to some of the stuff that's been going on in the nerd world, if you don't mind, Tony.
Not
Mr.
at all.
Marvelite. First of all, mild little, I don't really want to get into spoilers, but like mild conversations, I have to admit, I am thoroughly enjoying and fully accepting what it is they're doing with She-Hulk Attorney at Law on the Disney Plus. There's been a very, I guess it's almost like this year is the year of the more unique run on these shows, because in the previous years we kind of had a little balance of what would seem like Marvel that we knew, and then Marvel that's experimental, and this one is definitely dipping its toe into the experimental realm. But I'm digging what they're throwing down. What are your general thoughts on what we've been given so far?
It's funny. Phase 4 is a completely different breed than what we've seen in the MCU. And I get it, because Phase 1 was the bet. It was let's see if we can actually pull this off. Let's see if we can actually make this happen. And we get all of the quintessential, Avengers, the B list, or even the C list, if you think about it, in the comics. And they were able to build this world that everyone got excited for leading up to Avengers. Phase 2 was expanding more and laying groundwork, but giving those individual stories still, and then leading up to Age of Ultron, ultimately to Infinity War and Endgame. They used the first two phases to build up to the third phase, where we actually got Black Panther and Captain Marvel, and they were able to take risks. phase 4 is, we know we've got your money. We're going to do what we think is fun and just have fun with it. They're world building. They're having fun with it. It doesn't have to make you believe it, because at this point we believe everything that happens in the MCU. And so now they're going into the full styles, because I've always thought the one cool thing about the MCU was no one movie, or no two movies were alike. They always had a different style or a genre that they were running into.
Definitely. I mean, everything was always themed in a way, with the Captain America movies. They definitely had a specific tone that they serve up, like the second one is a real big spy thriller type thing and espionage and
kind of like a Manchurian Candidate type thing.
Yeah, in many ways. While still having kind of echoes of 3 Days of the Condor with Steve and Natasha on the run. But anyway, I've really been enjoying what they've been doing, because like there's a certain level of fun that I think we needed after Moon Knight, because that show in itself heavy on the emotional damage, and obviously the head messing and the journey it took us through too is a very dark one. So I understand these items falling where they are just in tone, because I think they've kind of been the things that we need. It's like we went from horrible to semi-serious to now just plain goofiness, but in a good way for me. But what I will say too, though, is that I know we're getting 9 episodes because they're shorter episodes, but a lot of what happens in 2 really felt kind of like overflow from 1, because those first 2 episodes really do bookend each other so well that they really feel like just somebody pivoted to the different time somewhere along the way while they were still in production, and they just decided to hatchet that one at a specific point, and then it just kind of rolled over into the next one. That's my opinion. Could be wrong.
What was interesting was that the reports came out that the director of She-Hulk actually wanted to do the origin story later in the season. Like, it wasn't going to be something we got in episode 1. And so I almost feel with what we got in episode 2, it would not have worked to have it later. And, it's one of those things where, back in phase 2, a lot of the stories struggled because of the creative committee that, was put in place to keep everything in line. And then you have, Kevin Feige is now, is chief guru of all MCU stuff. And so, he's arguing with, Iman and whoever else. And, it's really whatever he wants at this point to keep continuity. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting. And the amount of Easter eggs, like in episode 2 itself, like, I love how self-aware the whole Bruce Banner being a different person, the little hints on the sidebar of the news reports.
That when we say the news reports, there's a specific scene where actually, interestingly enough, one of the characters is looking for new ideas for employment. Let's just put it that way. And on screen in the sidebar, there is an ad for like Rogers 2s or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was it was Iron Man 3s, like shoes. Yeah, like Air Jordans type of ad. And then below that, and this is me wondering, is this just a digital artist having a laugh, or is this something that needed to be cleared and put in? Because, and I don't consider this a spoiler because it's an on-screen bit either way. And in the sidebar, it says there's one that's great because it's an article about man gets into a bar brawl with metal. What did it say? Metal claws. Yes. So it's like, are they talking about Wolverine? And then, and then the best part for me though is right below that, because that article is like, why is there a giant statue of a man in the ocean now?
And then, see, I honestly feel like the Iron Man 3s, the claw thing, I think those were intended. I almost wonder if Disney, if Marvel Studios went back and said, I am tired of seeing this TikTok about this guy saying, why isn't anybody talking about the giant, celestial coming out of the ocean? And Marvel's like, okay, that's all you're gonna get. So shut up now. And it's perfect. It's perfect. Because there's so many ways you can explain it where you don't have to have anything. But that one little article is all they need. Oh, well, it's all in there now. But what I loved is one of the hardest things for me is to place Eternals in Phase 4.
Really?
You can always go back.
It's the easiest.
I know
one.
you have the timeline thing, but like it didn't. There again, like I get the whole like why isn't anything? Where is it referenced? Like would Eternals have been like near the end after Multiverse of Madness or whatever? But now we know it's like tucked in with Shang-Chi and with She-Hulk.
What Eternals?
Yeah,
Eternals for me was sunk in the timeline where it happens. That was a flag that was planted when Ajax says 3 weeks ago or 5 years ago, or she says something that's very time specific, so that way we know Eternals basically happens within weeks after the blip, right? So right there. Man, don't make me do this, because I was trying to work through this the other day, because it's like, so the blip happens. So we're in 2022. The blip happens. And then in Far From Home, all the kids that come back are pissed off because they had to repeat the school year. So we know that when they come back in 22, it's sometime within a period that for me, well, actually, it just says they blipped away probably near the spring, summer area because they were mad that they had to repeat their junior year. But anyway, so that was 22, then they had to repeat their junior year. So we're either in 23 or 24 there. And then that's the summer break of 23 or 24. And then you've got No Way Home happening in the fall, winter of either 23 or 24. Shang-Chi, I'm not sure where that works in, but we know that Hawkeye happens pretty much in the same holiday season as No Way Home, because Florence, or what is her character's name? Florence Pugh's character's name?
Yelena.
Yelena says, seeing the updated Statue of Liberty. So that's where all those things happen. But like, where does Moon Knight fall in? Everyone, and that's the problem. Maybe that's just the thing we need to let go of and stop trying to figure out exactly where in the timeline these things are happening. And let's just accept the fact that they're just kind of happening. We need to let that go.
Yeah, but
obviously I just spent 5 minutes on it.
Yeah, but it's like for people like me, like I've been sticking with following through, and like it kind of, I wouldn't even call myself like a historian when it comes to the MCU, but like I've been definitely trying to keep everything down so that I could kind of follow through. And Phase 4 has been the hardest for me to really narrow down where things go, because like I was a while back, I did a TikTok where people didn't realize that Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, the end of Captain America, and Thor all basically happened within 1 week. And so it's things like that where you can break down, and then of course you have the comic book that kind of like ties it all in, where it was Fury's big week where all of this stuff was happening at the same time. And so like Phase 4 like messed with me, because I want to address like something that someone said in the comments is like I have OCD, and so for me is one of my tics. And if I don't drink, I'll be doing something else, twisting my head or grunting or doing something else like inappropriate. And so this is how I literally have, like, after the show, I will be running to the restroom because I've overdone it. And it's not because I really am thirsty. It's because I have to.
Oh, I thought he was probably talking to me just because I'm horking down 32 ounces of raspberry lemonade.
Well, either way, I think we've been both going for it, and I'm doing the whole ginger ale thing. So it's like, it's like so for me being OCD and having Tourette's, like I like narrowing things down, and I promise you, Spider-Man No Way Home ruined that for me. Like No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, because like I have gone through so many different versions of how long Wanda's had the Darkhold since WandaVision that I just stopped even trying. And that's hard for me.
Oh yeah, because WandaVision happens approximately 3 to 4. That's the one that happens 3 to 4 weeks after the blip, because he says,
Right.
you know, it's been 3 weeks. You're the first one to come back to Monica Rambeau. See, man, don't get nerds engaged with timeline and continuity. We just go overboard. But yeah, in that regard, if that happened after No Way Home, that theoretically means that Wanda has had the Darkhold pretty much since, let's just call it the winter of 22. Okay? Or the fall of 22. And since then. So that means that she's either had it for 2 years or 3 years. And that's the reason why in Multiverse of Madness, when we see her, like in WandaVision, at the end of that, she has this brand new kind of dark ruby colored costume, but it's very clean and looks good. But she takes the Darkhold at that point. Next time we see her in this movie, when she's in her gear, if you look carefully, that costume has gone from that dark red to that is a scorched earth red, and her whole costume has got all kinds of cracks in it and damage.
Yep.
And not to mention the place she's staying is pretty jacked up. So
yeah, to realize how her use of the Darkhold has corrupted the entire countryside that she's at, and then like it brings up to like so then like I get excited because in phase 5 we're gonna get Agatha and the Coven of Chaos, and just for the fact that they changed it from the House of Harkness to the Coven of Chaos, you know it has everything to do with chaos magic, everything to do with Wanda. I believe that Wanda submits to Agatha, and Agatha actually helps Wanda restore herself. Because if you think about how badly Wanda was corrupted by the Darkhold, and you look at Agatha, Agatha had nothing messed up with her. Like she had the fingers and stuff, but that's like the witch thing for the MCU. Agatha's whole purpose was to prevent the Scarlet Witch. I'm not saying she's a hero, but come on, she like does an MCU witch. Do they always go the right way when it comes to doing something? Wanda is not a good example of doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. She did the wrong thing.
I mean, God, don't take me down this road. We're trying to have a general This isn't a TikTok live, man, okay? Not everybody's looking for us to bust down hard on MCU theorizing and all this. But, like, you say something like that, and then, like, that makes me wonder, is that the reason why the Darkhold for her was, or for Agatha, was in her room where all the runes were cast? Because she knew she could use the book without maybe getting corrupted.
Right. And it looks like she was never actually using the book. It was more of like she was researching from the book, like she was learning, because Wanda was the one that was actually repeatedly going through the multiverse and, using creatures from different universes.
Oh, so you're saying that the real corruption actually stems from using the spells within and not so much the reading.
Yeah, because if you think about like Strange only had it for a short period of time, let's say hours. And of course, the consequence of that, I would say, would be directly referencing the fact that he has a third eye, just like that Sinister Strange did.
Even though, like, realistically, I think they've just been trying to find a way to work that in for the longest time,
I was really hoping that in No Way Home, when they opened up that refrigerator with all those creatures, they were going to talk about the fact that Strange can't eat normal food. Like, I was really hoping they were going to go that route. Because in the comics, he can't eat human food. Like, he can't. He has to eat the creepiest, craziest stuff.
Yeah, that's why I would pass on being the Sorcerer Supreme, by the way. I already have a problem with sugar. I don't know what, like, intergalactic squid would do to me.
Or pizza balls.
Yeah. Well, no, those I still want. I still want them anyway. So what I was just trying to say, though, is that I really like what they're doing with She-Hulk. I really have been, so far for me, the cost of Disney Plus between Mandalorian and all of the Marvel shows has been so worth it. It's insane. And this show, I like what they did though, because like the one thing that you got to wonder in a world that's relying on a She-Hulk is like for this story where it's Hulk, and by the end of the second episode they effectively take him off the board again for a little bit, which I'm not shocked.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's the great thing. Like with Disney Plus, the shows have been, some of them have had pacing problems, but ultimately, even let's say the worst Disney Plus Marvel show is still pretty good. It's still enjoyable, and it still builds the world. And thankfully, at least Marvel is not axing everything left and right like DC is at the moment.
Yeah, which still just blows my mind. But I also understand because I too have known people who have they've been like a part of a layoff, but at the time they did it, they got a really great severance package because companies had been merging, and so there were special funds and considerations that can happen in that unique transaction. And that seems to be the logic that they're using. You know, the problem is it's a lot of media and a lot of people's works and a lot of jobs that just go to pot because now this product can never make a dime. It can never be released. And now we're also getting word of other projects that are getting canceled, which I'm not surprised about. But, you know, it's one of those things where anytime corporations get involved, it never works out. It just never works out. I mean, like, it's sad.
So here's the thing: like Warner Brothers has for a while tried to mimic the Marvel recipe. They tried to build their own DCEU based off of, you know, let's compete with the MCU, which they never had to do. They just had to make good movies. But what's funny is like we've been looking for Mephisto in all of the Marvel movies. We didn't realize the devil was over with DC with Zaslav. And basically he is the Thanos of Warner Brothers Discovery. And he's basically snapped most of the DC movies out of existence to the point of where they can't even afford to release the DC movies they already have completed because they're out of money. Because what they didn't think is, oh, let's nix Batgirl for $90 million and we'll just have it as a tax write-off, not understanding the fact that people would just stop, you know, trading and would start selling because, oh, I don't know, people don't have faith in the stock anymore because of what they're doing. So it's very interesting. And then of course you have the whole Ezra Miller apology, non-apology. And I love the fact that, you know, we got this apology. People were like, oh, I'm excited for, you know, Flash again. And then you find out that the only reason why Ezra Miller even apologized because they were concerned that they would cancel Flash. So yeah, that's not a real apology.
No, he kicked off the apology tour when he officially goes in for treatment. Then okay. And you know, I don't mean to belittle it. Clearly that is a person that has many different issues and probably really needs help. But at the same time, yeah, you can tell when certain things happen, and it's because some suits have said, if you don't do this, we will take every single penny from you and you will be completely ruined. And that's, you know, that's just not a good environment. But yeah, the whole thing it's been, from a nerd culture perspective, it's been very shocking. And it reminds us as well, I think, why it's important to support the things that we are fans of in as positive a way as we can. So that way, when businesses get involved, there aren't decisions that are being made that are being, you know, that are being made thinking, yeah, we can just get away with doing this, because that's not the case. It's like, why should I even be invested in the Flash movie when, you know, what other media are you going to bring me when there's so much other media competing for our attention.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to watch the Flash movie because I just it's becoming too problematic for me, and it's hard because I'm Mr. Marvelite, but I love DC. I do. DC was my first love. I got into loving comic books because of the Death of Superman comic. I still have that comic the first comic I read before I jumped into Ninja Turtles and X-Men, and then fell in love with X-Men and Spider-Man. And when I kind of put this stuff aside and went off to college, it was Smallville and the story of Clark Kent and Superman that got me back into like really obsessing about pop culture. And so it's hard for me to consider that DC is struggling like it is. But when you have executives that treated Ray Fisher the way that he was treated and allowed the bad behavior with like Joss Whedon, and then you have this concept that they are going to, they're cutting back from diversity so that they can cater to middle America, which is funny because I'm pretty sure I'm part of maybe the lower middle class, which then it means like they should be catering to me and I want diversity. So what's wrong? What are we doing here? Why are we struggling with this? That we don't understand that, you want fans from everywhere, not just the toxic, fanboys that are just obsessed with, let's keep it let's go in the white direction, basically is how they're saying it.
Well, what's crazy too, if you think about it, is there has been plenty of examples on the table that they could draw from, where they can see that they've got a fan base that wants to support them, because you give them a unique product like Doom Patrol, you give them a unique product like Peace,
New Titans.
Well, New Titans, but also is it Peacemaker? Peacemaker. I don't know why I couldn't remember the maker part. Probably because I'm tired. But you've got all these things, which by the way, critically are adored as well. I mean, there are the things we just talked about right there. Unique products made for the platforms, originally DC Universe. But, look at all the tumultuous behavior that's happened there. Because like I said, it was made for DC Universe, and then suddenly that app is gone, and now it's this, and then, boy, it's it's a mess. But like I was saying, sorry, went off on a tangent, but it's important for us to support these things, so that way people might understand that they've got product that we want, and if they let the right people do the work and they get involved a little less, they would have stuff that we would all just love, because it doesn't matter who's in it, what you call it. If it's got a Batman in it, I'm gonna see it eventually. If it's got a Superman in it, I'm gonna see it. I mean, I've always been baffled about how they've not been able to just get this one right.
Yeah, and it was funny because when James Gunn was fired from Disney initially because of the the ancient tweets that he'd already apologized for, it was almost like it was like a breath of life for DC, because they were getting somebody who knew how to do ensembles, that knew how to do like I would almost say like a spunky cast, but like just a bunch of underdogs, and put them together. And the Suicide Squad was a great film, and then Peacemaker was a fantastic show. And I don't know if he's going to want to continue in this atmosphere if this is the direction they're going, because James Gunn is very much a diversity centric, like making sure that people are represented. Like, I could see him being like, "Hey, Marvel, can I come back to do something else?" Like,
sorry, I'm not laughing about diversity. I'm laughing because, like, somehow they put out an actual presentation that's the complete antithesis of what you're talking about, where they qualify that people on, it was between HBO Max and Discovery Plus, and I mean, like, basically they summed it up as HBO Max is for boys and Discovery Plus is for girls, and that's how it is.
And men make fire, and
they're bad. I mean, it was just so unbelievably culturally tone deaf of mankind overall. It's like, how could you guys?
Well, it's like it's almost the thing where you have people that are like upset with like She-Hulk for her being able to control her anger because of catcalling and everything else, which is very legitimate and makes perfect sense. And if you anybody who had a problem with what she was saying obviously has not been around women or touched a woman in a very long time. And I'm pretty sure that's part of the problem, because you would understand that those are real things. And I'm sorry if that, but honestly, like
Tony woke up and chose violence, man.
Oh, absolutely. But then I'm surprised there are more men that are not upset with this model, where it's like basically what Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery is saying is, you can't have something between your legs and have depth of emotion or have complex thinking or be able to be stretched out of you are a Neanderthal, and all you want is explosions and mansplaining and all this stuff, which is ridiculous, because there are people who identify as men who are men because they're able to have more than just a conversation about sports or about, that hot chick they saw down the road. Like, they can actually have content. And it's really sad that we're living in a day and time where an entire organization would think that that's the right way to go.
I would completely and utterly agree. I would also say that those that are shocked or don't like the fact that her explanation of essentially the way women have to live a life in modern society, if you can't grasp that, then you probably also can't grasp the fact. And for example, I, as a white male in America, I can't grasp it because I've never had to essentially deal with it, which is, I can walk around and I am not being suspected of anything, okay? Generally, people are not going to cross the street when they see me on this side of the street. I'm not instantly going to be considered a threat. And I also don't actively leave my house wondering if today is the day I'm going to get killed for not doing anything wrong. And if you think that there are other people in this country that don't face what I just mapped out as a part of their existence, you're also probably part of the problem.
It's funny because there's a TikTok that went around where someone was talking about how they were surprised that it's a thing. Then when women get inside of a car, they look at the back seat to make sure there's nobody there. And I sat there and I was actually shocked, because I'm like, wait, why is that just a women thing? Because I've done that my entire life.
Because we watch too much media.
But the thing is, no, it's not even that. It's I did, like, because I grew up in a single parent home. My mom and I would go places, and that was a legitimate fear. Like, my mom instilled in things in me that she would have instilled in a daughter, because she just thought they were natural fears. When you walk to your car and it's dark outside, you take your keys and you put the keys in between your fingers. So it's kind of like you got claws, and if you need to punch somebody, it's going to do damage. That's the stuff that I grew up on, because that was a real concern my mom had. And I didn't realize that there are things that I'm just sitting there and I listen to people talk about. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then there are guys that are going, I've never considered that. It must be because I'm a guy. And I'm like, wait, I'm a guy. Oh, my mom raised me to do all of the, to watch all the things. So I identify with a lot of the stuff that a lot of girls fear, because that's what my mom taught me, because those were legitimate fears for her. So I just find it funny, because we don't understand. And even with me being raised that way, I'm even coming to terms with times. And She-Hulk was a great place to learn the lesson. When Banner was talking over Jennifer and was, basically imposing his opinion on her, not really hearing her at first, I realized I do that a lot. I don't listen. I assume, and I have to step back and I have to listen more. And I even actually went and I said, this is gonna be really weird, but Marvel taught me a life lesson. I need to be listening more. And we all could do that. But some people would rather be like, I'm angry, don't watch this. This hurts. Let me get sticks and throw them at windows.
Or they're just a narcissist like myself, so they instantly assume what it is they're about to say is going to be the smartest thing you're going to hear or set your thinking straight, and they're going to interrupt you, which is why it's a miracle I've been married for almost 28 years, because that's what my wife has to deal with every single day she talks to me. And I recognize it, and I try and work on it. But like Yoda said, do or do, oh no, pardon me, Mr. Miyagi said, do or do not, there is no try.
That was Yoda.
Yeah, Miyagi said it too. He said it differently. He used the grape analogy. That's what it was. You karate do yes, you karate do no. You karate do maybe, just like grape.
Stand corrected.
Yeah, great. Now ask me when my brother Steven's birthday is. I don't know, Tony. Just leave it at that. I can bust those things too out for you, but ask me when my brother Donald's birthday is. I don't know. I'm a horrible, horrible brother and uncle. Just terrible.
Oh.
But I didn't mean to drop my dirty laundry on you, man. Hey, do me a favor. Now that we got all heavy, say something funny. No, I'm kidding. Don't say something funny, but let's remind everybody before we wrap up that at the end of this week, folks, after you get through the hellacious standard work week that we all have to endure, you can relax and enjoy something new. Is it a new episode of NetHeads? Thank goodness no. Tony, tell them what it is.
All right. So on the Nerd Initiative YouTube channel and on Twitch, we will be doing our first episode of Fandoms, which is a show all about the things that you enjoy. It's not going to just be Marvel. It's not going to just be DC. We're trying to reach out to make sure we cover anime, gaming, merchandise. If like you're big at doing merch hauls, and all of that kind of stuff. We'll also be showcasing watch parties that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be talking about some interviews that we've had through the Nerd Initiative group, and everyone's kind of like chipping in, and it's going to be a nice variety, and we really don't know what we're going to be yet, but it could end up being a little bit of a variety show, a little bit of an interview show, a little bit of a news show, but it's definitely going to be interesting, and it's going to be a bunch of dudes talking about stuff along with some fantastic contributors. But that'll be this coming Friday, the 2nd of September at 9:00 Eastern time, which I believe is 6 o'clock. Yes, 6 o'clock Pacific time. So we'd love to have you. And it's on the Nerd Initiative channel on YouTube. And I believe just twitch.tv/Nerd Initiative. And at some point, when we're making more revenue and we can add more stuff to the restream, we'll probably be throwing it on Facebook and stuff like that.
No, kind of like I've been unwittingly doing to you tonight, because it's always an evolutionary model, and I really appreciate the fact that you say we're not sure what it is that it is yet, because you have no idea, because it sounds to me like this is a live product as well.
Yes. So some of the segments will be recorded. That way we can kind of like have them there. Because could you imagine having like 5 to 10 people sitting on standby for their scene to just go over their stuff?
No.
It would be terrible. The logistics of just the internet going down. We were having technical issues before we even started this show.
Right.
So like I can't imagine. So having everything recorded and preset is great. And then we'll be bringing people on and we'll be rotating stuff. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but that's the way it should be. It should be you doing this and just kind of discovering what it is along the way. Because, depending on the venue that you're producing through, it may be that, it does well streaming on Twitter and it does okay on YouTube, but we're not really getting that kind of reaction on Twitch. Well, what if we just have one guy sitting there playing a game and talking to people in chat? That might be better for us, and you do that.
Yeah.
It's all a learning lesson in this world where we're more about brand and diversity of content. So good luck with that, and I look forward to enjoying it and maybe even hopefully someday contributing. But, I can't get my act together, man. I just got I got glass coming at me on freeways. It's nuts.
And dogs to groom.
Dogs to groom, my man. Did
you remember to pick the dogs up at least?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That became part of the ordeal, because remember
priorities.
That's why I got a stack of horse stuff in my office, because my daughter had to unload all of her stuff from her car because we had to use her car to get the dogs. And then later on, oh my gosh, I almost forgot. We were wrapping up too. Did I bring it in here? I didn't bring it in here. I have this ridiculously large coffee mug, okay? This thing, it's 8 inches tall, and it's got to be at least, 6 inches in the diameter. No, radius is on diameter. It's about yay big, okay? It's bigger. It's as big as a human head. And today at 7-Eleven was bring your own cup for Slurpees Day. So they had a 10-inch hole. If you could fit the object with it standing upright through that hole, you could fill it up with the Slurpee of your choice. All the flavors, one of the flavors didn't matter. My daughter was smart. She brought her 40-ounce insulated cup, like
Nice.
a water bottle, and I had brought that coffee mug. And boy, that was fun. And I just found out about it. I'm like, oh, that's happening. I'm like, oh, that might be fun for my daughter. So let's go do that. And I wanted to share it, and I forgot to show the coffee mug. I'm an idiot.
Oh no, it's fun. I didn't even know about it, so I completely missed out on the entire endeavor. Like I used to do the 7-Eleven day all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and we literally filled a 12-passenger van with a bunch of teenagers, and we were traveling through the South, and everywhere we went, we had mapped out where every 7-Eleven was, and by the time we got to Florida, they were so hyped up on sugar and they were sick that it took a day for them to recover. But it was so much fun, and now I'm diabetic.
and now I constantly get mad at my wardrobe. That's how I felt lately. But anyway,
Get mad at my wardrobe. I miss my wardrobe.
yeah. Look at all these shirts. And I can't. I'm sorry. I'm now projecting.
Then you go in a closet. You go in a closet, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I remember when I could wear those things. Why did I ever think I was big back then?" It's
I've got a serious t-shirt problem because I had Loot Crate for a number of years, and then when you live this kind of lifestyle, it's very easy for people to get you gifts in the t-shirt arena. So I've had at least 2 cullings, and I still have an entire section of my closet that is just t-shirts, and I really need to clean them out.
Hey, listen, I'm a big guy, but I do feel at some points that I am attractive. I still do that. And I'm not saying it for myself. I mean, whenever I go into the bathroom and I take off my clothes, I turn the shower on.
Nice, man. All right, folks.
With it. Whew.
That's it for tonight's episode of NetHeads. Tony, thank you very much for joining us. If you want to find out more about Tony, he's Mr. Marvelite, as you see the name right there on just about every of the social medias, especially the TikTok, which is how I met this fine fellow. So go check him out and give him a follow. Don't forget as well, you can go to netheadsonair.com for all the little clicky links that are relevant to this. And, of course, NetHeads on Air on Patreon. If you want to become part of the behind-the-scenes fun with original content and exclusive Patreon-only live shows that are commercial-free, unlike this entire end of this podcast. It's a gigantic commercial. Until next time, my name's Will.
And I'm Tony.
And we'll be back soon. Now's the part where Tony was like, why don't you remember the buttons you're supposed to talk about that you said you were going to press? It's okay. I stalled just long enough to figure it out.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins signing off. I know, right? But stop being a little Nancy and deal with it. NetHeads. We'll be back soon.
Goodbye.
This has been a Smodco Internet production. SIP. Only at smodcast.com.